Kauai and Maui voters are shared statewide, but they also struggle with problems unique to their counties and islands. Tonight, the Democratic candidates for State House District 14, Kauai County, and District 13, Maui County, will answer your questions live. Insights on PBS Hawaii starts now.
Aloha, I'm Daryl Huff from Hawaii News Now. Welcome to Insights on PBS Hawaii. Voters in House District 14 on Kauai will head to the polls this weekend to decide which Democratic candidate for State House will move forward to the general election. Among the many issues facing the candidates are traffic woes, a lack of affordable housing, and how to strike a balance between new development and preservation. In parts of Maui County, voters also have a big decision to make to decide which Democratic candidates for House Seat 13 will move forward. Some of the many issues facing their communities: a lack of road infrastructure, invasive species, and a privatization of some hospitals in Maui County. During the first half of the show tonight, we'll talk to the Democratic candidates from House District 14, which includes Hanalei, Princeville, and Wailua on Kauai. Then we'll turn our attention to the Democratic candidates from House District 13, which encompasses parts of East Maui, Lana'i, and Molokai. We hope you'll participate in tonight's discussion. You can email, call, or tweet your questions, and you'll find a live stream of this program at pbshawaii.org. Don't forget to call in your questions early for the Kauai candidates, as they will only be on the show for the first half. Prior to tonight's show, there was a random drawing that determined the seating order and the order we will use throughout the program. Now to the Democratic candidates for House District 14 on Kauai. Neither is an incumbent. The winner of Saturday's primary will face Republican Sandra Combs in a general election. First, Nadine Nakamura recently stepped down as the County of Kauai Managing Director to campaign for office. She's a former county council member and also served as vice chair of the council. Ms. Nakamura ran a planning consulting company practice for 20 years. And Fern Rosenstiel was born and raised in District 14 and graduated from Kapa'a High School. Ms. Rosenstiel worked as an environmental scientist and consultant for a large consulting firm and as an environmental officer for the Department of Transportation in Queensland, Australia, before moving home in 2012. Before we begin our discussion, let's take a look at the demographic makeup of House District 14.
State House District 14 includes 22,581 residents from the Kauai communities of Hanalei, Princeville, Kilauea, Anahola, Kapa'a, and Wailua. The median age is 42.2 years. Declared race, alone or in combination, is 61.6% Caucasian, 40.3% Asian, and 24.5% Native Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. Just over 5,000 families live in District 14, and the average household income is $57,131. 13.2% of all residents and 8.6% of families are living below the poverty level. More than 93% are high school graduates, and more than 30.5% have a bachelor's degree. The median value of an owner-occupied housing unit is $498,300, and the median rent is $1,511.
Now, you both come to this election with significant differences in background. We'll start with you, Ms. Nakamura. Tell us, how do your personal experiences really prepare you to become a representative of the island?
Well, my background is in urban and regional planning. Consider myself a facilitator, a collaborator. Throughout my entire career, that's what I've been doing. I have helped working for a nonprofit, helped to develop affordable housing, special needs housing. As a planning consultant for over 20 years, I helped to work on plans like the Molokai Master Plan and the General Plan Update, Kauai's Economic Development Plan, and as a council member, worked on many different projects to help improve the island. And for the past 2.5 years, Mayor Carvalho asked me to be his managing director, and I've been working very closely to implement his vision for the island.
How important is that vision? Do you think that vision's popular on the island as a political foundation?
Yes, I think it's a very popular vision of dealing with our solid waste issues by siting a new landfill, by a very aggressive program of building affordable rental housing, developing an adolescent treatment and healing center, and a range, and really pursuing the idea of complete streets and safe routes to school. It's really building buildable, walkable, smarter communities.
And Fern Rosenstiel, how about you? What interesting background, time in Australia. How did that prepare you for what you're trying to accomplish now?
Thank you, Daryl. My time in Australia was really a wonderful experience working as a consultant. I got to work on major infrastructure projects, small ones and very big ones, and a wide diversity of projects. And throughout that experience, I learned a lot about budgeting, about managing, and about commitment to getting things done and deliverables. And it was a wonderful experience and very fulfilling, but it didn't really fulfill my true purpose of utilizing my environmental science degree to better Kauai and to give back to our community.
Well, what activated you to become active in actually politics then?
I'm not exactly sure how I got here. Over the years, I've continuously been involved in issues that matter to our community, been passionate about access and Hawaiian rights issues, environmental protection and restoration projects and issues. And throughout the last few years, I've seen how important it is that we elect people that make good choices and how much the people and the decisions that they make in government impact our day-to-day lives. And it's just inspired me. You know, I see a real lack of involvement in our, not only in the younger generations, but just in government and policy and voting, and I've just been inspired to help bring people together to help vote and inspire change.
You know, Ms. Nakamura, as you've walked around and have been campaigning, you know, Kauai has had some pretty divisive issues over the years. Do you find that the community is sort of polarized around certain things?
I think the community gets polarized when the process to come up with policies or introduce new things to the island has not gone through a good vetting process. And when people, you know, jump to conclusions or projects are thrust on the island that, you know, really hasn't gone through the careful deliberation and looking at facts, looking at the real values that people hold on the island. So that's what leads to contentious situations.
How do you feel about that? When you're walking around, do you feel that people are unhappy?
I don't. I think that it's the divisive nature of certain key issues that we've dealt with have been perpetuated more than what's actually true. I mean, I've worked on very controversial issues, including the pesticide buffer zone and disclosure bill, and I have great friends on both sides, even friends that I care very deeply for that have worked for the companies and do work for the companies, and I feel like I have a great working relationship with people on both sides, and that the division is sometimes blown out of proportion, possibly by corporate interests and people that would like to create division among our community. But I see us as a very tight-knit community and for the most part very respectful, and I don't believe that we're as divided as people would like to project.
You know, do you agree with that? That some of this divisiveness, particularly in Kauai, is overspoken?
I think I think some issues have divided the community, the approach to some of the issues. And I think that, for example, 2491 was a divisive issue for our
That's the
Kauai.
pesticide bill,
That's
right?
the GMO pesticide bill that was introduced back in, was it 2012? 13. And it did, I think, tear the community apart. There were different camps, contention between the two sides, and a lot of facts being presented on both sides, legal arguments on both sides, and it didn't have to be that way. But that's kind of what played out.
Yeah, let me move to Ms. Rosenstiel on that. You were active in the development of that piece of legislation and trying to push it forward. Why was that such an important issue to you for the island of Kauai?
I researched the issue for many years before coming home. Throughout my science degree, I learned more and more about the impacts of pesticides in heavy doses, and particularly the genetic links to genetically modified organisms that have been purposely developed for the use of pesticides or herbicide tolerance. And I became concerned when I talked to various people that live in the community, and I've done a lot of research on the issue. And when I came home, I was looking for answers because people were, like Ms. Nakamura said, that there's been many different information and facts coming out that aren't necessarily true or vetted. And I, looked forward to getting real answers, which is why I moved forward so strongly with and supported so strongly disclosure and buffer zones, which I felt was incredibly reasonable. And it did come as a surprise to me, the divisive nature that came from that, because I really thought it was pretty clear, and it wasn't. A lot of people felt like it wasn't strong enough.
Let me just ask it's a fairly direct question. Is it? Do you feel that the way the companies are operating on Kauai is a threat to public health?
I do. Yes, I believe that the way that corporations are practicing, there's multiple violations to things like even our county grading and grubbing laws, but the Clean Water Act.
Well, I'm talking specifically about the GMO companies.
Yeah, and I am too. Their runoff and the concerns and the lack of monitoring and the lack of oversight, I do find concerning, both to community and the environment. A friend of mine, a close friend of mine in Kekaha's daughters just came back with 36 different restricted use pesticide samples in their hair, and they live across the street from one of the Syngenta fields. Do I know for sure that how they got there? No, but I do definitely have concerns, absolutely.
You want to go ahead and respond to that?
Well, and that's why when I was on the county council at the time and the bill was proposed, we did make some amendments to the bill to strengthen it. One of the things that we did was we took out the EIS requirement, and instead we put together, I worked with Councilmember Joanne Yukimura, and we instead added language for a joint fact-finding study.
Yeah, I have a question on that I want to get to, but let me understand, just for the purpose, so our viewers understand, what was this bill's main purpose?
The main purpose was to regulate pesticides, to really insert the county, to have the county take on additional responsibilities for regulating pesticides and GMO.
And you supported that?
I ended up supporting the bill with some reservations.
Okay, and how do you feel that, this is a question that just came from a viewer. What are the candidates' position on the joint fact-finding studies on pesticides, conclusions and recommendations? There were a number of conclusions and recommendations. I think in the end, though, the people who were more critical of the government's role felt like the GMO companies were I'm not quite sure how to put this. Go ahead, just what are your positions on that?
Well, I feel that the Joint Fact-Finding Group came back with good recommendations. In fact, I almost feel that they recommended our bill. They recommended more disclosure, more data, buffer zones, and I feel like in a lot of ways this process did help to clarify some of the miscommunications and inconsistencies in fact that were circling throughout the community. But I feel strongly that these recommendations should be implemented, and I think they're really basic and they're really common sense. And without disclosure and without data, we aren't able to make and this is where it all came from in the beginning. In the very beginning, when Councilmember Gary Hooser went and sat with the companies and said, these are the concerns that we're having, are you using these chemicals? They proceeded to say that they weren't using some of these very concerning chemicals like atrazine, and it wasn't until the Freedom of Information request came out that we found that they were actually using these chemicals that are highly concerning. And so it evolved into a disclosure and a buffer zone bill based on the fact that the state has really not been stepping up and not doing the kind of protections and action. We don't really have representation. We have very little oversight on Kauai.
Okay, one more question to you. Yes, go ahead, please.
So the Joint Fact-Finding Committee worked very hard and long on looking at the data. And that was what we wanted to do, was bring in a neutral facilitator, work with all of the stakeholders involved in the issue, and come up with look at the facts that are out there and the data, and then come up with some recommendations. And I personally felt that this should have preceded the bill, but that didn't happen.
Let me ask you a direct question again, though. So when either of you gets to the legislature, I'll start with you. Will you support similar sorts of legislation at the state level, since the county level has basically got nixed by the federal court, right?
Right. So there's two things that came out of the joint fact-finding study. The first thing is that there's not enough data. There's a lack of data to link pesticide use with environmental degradation and human health impacts. And the second recommendation, equally important, is that the state can do a better job of monitoring the soil, water, air quality to have more meaningful data to base future public policy decisions. And I think that's and it lays out a very good, I agree with Fern that, there's a good roadmap now that we can use. One of the first things that's going to come out of this is that the state legislature last year set aside $500,000 to study surface water monitoring, not just on Kauai, but the rest of the state. And it's $500,000 Department of Ag will be working with USGS on.
Okay.
So that's the direction I think that is a good thing.
Yeah, I just want to respond to that a little. I really feel that the Joint Fact-Finding Group actually came back with a lot of information. There's really ample evidence, astounding amount of scientific evidence out there about the impacts of pesticide exposure on human health and environment. And many studies especially off Queensland, Australia, off the Great Barrier Reef about runoff and the pesticide impacts on the reef structures. So the science is already there for that aspect of it. But because Kauai is such a small population, the scientific process to prove significance and to prove correlation is almost nearly impossible. So while the Joint Fact-Finding Group came back and said that they're unable to prove without a doubt that there's these impacts, they also came back and said that there wasn't enough information to prove that there isn't. But there is all this information to prove that these are the impacts of a pesticide exposure. And I think that alone is enough to make steps, especially on the statewide level, to do disclosure and buffers.
Okay, I want to move on now. Some viewer questions, they are coming in from Hermina Morita, a well-known name. With the high cost of real estate, finding affordable housing is pretty scarce in the district, especially in the North Shore. How would you address this issue, as many families are just one paycheck away from being houseless and homeless? Ms. Nakamura?
I think we have to start off with looking and working together, again, collaborating with the public sector, the private sector, nonprofit developers to identify lands that might be available, either public, private lands, to, land is so expensive, and so we need to identify the opportunities, and then we need to work together to help put in the infrastructure that's needed to develop these homes. I think the role of state government is also to help provide low-interest financing to make these projects pencil out and bring down the level so that it is truly affordable for folks.
Okay. Do you have a response to that, or your own ideas on affordable housing?
Yeah, I think this is a really important issue. I mean, growing up on Kauai, I've seen most of my friends and even myself for many years wonder if I would ever be able to own a home. And I think it's really important that we address this issue. And I agree, we need to increase inventory and work on diversity of housing, different densities and different abilities to really keep it affordable and create new inventory. And I also feel like we need to help and support the counties in dealing with the illegal TVR issue that we have on our island, where especially in the North Shore.
Transient vacation rentals.
The transient vacation rentals, and really addressing that in a way that deals with the fact that for many years this has happened, and we need to figure out a way that people aren't being pushed out of the market, local families aren't being pushed out of the market for the benefit of the tourism industry.
Let me ask a question that kind of goes to that. When you talk about density, particularly in the neighbor islands, there's a sense of we don't want high rises,
Absolutely.
we don't want a lot of houses, but then that's almost one of the only ways you can build affordable housing anymore is with some density, and you mentioned that.
Right, in certain areas.
How high is too high for Kauai, for example, for affordable housing?
The highest coconut tree.
Well, I think that's in your charter, right?
But
40 feet.
Yeah.
40 feet.
So I feel that
Some developer come in and get some really tall coconut trees to.
You know, we have had wonderful leadership in our local government that's allowed us to preserve Kauai and to prevent those kind of developments and massive high rises and skyscrapers. And I'm very in support of preserving our culture, our way of life, and our rural landscape. But I do think it's important, especially in more urban areas like Lihue and Kapa'a, that we encourage when I say higher density, not necessarily skyscrapers by any means, but just houses that fit more family members and are able to fit more people in with maybe smaller yards. That way we have a range of price options. And so for families that need housing for less, that can be accommodated. But we really just need to keep that diversity open so that it keeps the lower prices down.
Any disagreement on that? Or?
No, and I think we should look at models like Kauai Habitat for Humanity, where a family, I just met a woman a few weeks ago who is part of a group of homeowners who are going to be, over the past year, have put in 600 to 700 hours and to build their homes and the homes of others, that their mortgage for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house is about $238,000, and that's the price point that really our local families can afford, and that can only happen partnering, collaborating again. That's a project where the county put in $3.5 million to help with the infrastructure, drainage, roadways, sewers.
Let me go to another issue now that's really, I know, front of mind on all the state, but particularly in Kauai. Caller received a call claiming Nadine Nakamura did not support food sustainability. Is that true? I don't know if that's too fair a question, but I mean, what does food sustainability really mean, and what is really possible for an island like Kauai to provide its own food?
Well, I totally support food sustainability, and I think agriculture is such an important part of our rural landscape. It defines our open spaces. These are, the roadside stands, and our farmers market is where people interact and engage. It's really part of our rural character, and just being able to have locally grown foods is something that I've supported as a council member, as a managing director. We, have supported the Kilauea Community Ag Park, and the community is taking the lead in developing this 75-acre park. I've been supportive of irrigation system upgrades and improvements, because we need to maintain these systems to really bring low-cost water to our farmers and ranchers. Being able to have value-added products at our farmer markets.
Okay, Ms. Rosenstiel, what do you think about that issue? I mean, when sometimes people associate the anti-pesticide movement, organic farming and so on, but is it really realistic to have enough of that kind of activity on a small island like Kauai to supply the community?
I have a bold vision for our agriculture industry, and I believe that together, through collaboration and through incorporating many of the things that Nini just said, the importance of our markets and supporting the infrastructure and local farmers and supporting growing farmers, helping farmers understand how to better farm and how to get the resources that they need to be able to do so, and land access and all those issues. I'm very passionate about this issue. I believe that together we could create a really vibrant industry for agriculture in Hawaii, where we exported food and we showed the world an example of how we can do it right. I believe Kauai can really produce food between the Mana'a Plain and the North Shore and the access to water. We have the ability to really do things right when it comes to agriculture, and I'm very passionate about the supporting local food production.
Okay, another question. Oh, sorry.
Can I just add to that?
Very
Sure.
briefly, yeah.
Just, the Kauai Economic Development Board is proposing a food production and education center. So when you talk about growing our farmers, this is a way for students and existing farmers to have a place where they can have facilities to take that product, get it to the market, create value-added products with bottling and labeling equipment that not just serves the local market, but the statewide market and globally. And that's a project that's going to achieve what you're saying, Fern. It is something that...
I think we're headed in the right direction.
Okay, good. I want to get in 2 more questions. We've only got about 3.5 minutes, so let me do this quickly. First of all, traffic. We know that's a big concern. As a state representative, you'd be expected to bring home the bacon for your district. If if you could get more state money for projects, which would you push, Ms. Rosenstiel?
I would absolutely support the current projects that are already underway for transportation and for traffic congestion, specifically in the Wailua corridor area, where we have already got a project expected to start, I believe, in 2018 to add another lane between the bypass and the Wailua Bridge, and also eventually developing the additional lane all the way to Lihui. I believe very strongly that we need to address the safety issues associated with the contraflow, and I think that we should immediately look at alternative routes. So I've been pushing for the opening of cane roads and alternative access routes while we can immediately relieve some of that congestion and look forward on how we can really develop alternative routes and additional lanes where needed, but can keep the rural appeal of our island.
How high a priority will this be for you?
I think it's the number one priority. East Kauai traffic is a huge problem, and the road infrastructure has not kept up with growth. So just to add to what Fern said, what we also need to do is to look at how we can create East Side, North Shore, and South Shore shuttles that tie into our mainline transit system to get our visitors and residents out of their cars.
I'm going to ask a yes/no question really quick because we have so little time left. But you know, the administration is holding up some of these road projects on the neighbor islands because they want to get more money. They want to raise the highway tax. Would you support raising the highway tax in order, if it meant getting these projects into Kauai? Nadine, you first.
I know there. Oh, I would consider it. Yes.
Okay.
I would consider it. I need to know more.
Okay, for both of you, and again, we only have about 30 seconds each, probably by the time we get done reading the question. Can we get a clear approach on how they will deal with homelessness on the island of Kauai? Ms. Nakamura.
Okay, I think what we have to do is to work very closely and collaboratively with the homeless coordinator. We need to create more homeless beds, and that's one thing that Mayor Carvalho is doing, is doubling the number of beds at our homeless shelter in Lihui under the governor's emergency proclamation. And we also need to work closely to do the assessments of our homeless population, because we all know that it's substance abuse, there's mental health issues, there's physical issues and employment issues that all need to be wrapped into the services. So definitely we need to find places for homeless to go to, and we need to find permanent rental housing.
Which is probably pretty short. What are your thoughts about homelessness?
Yeah, I think it's a really important issue for our district, our island, and our state. And I believe in the housing first solutions that other states have used. I love the idea of creating smaller houses or tiny home villages that really give people a base to work from so that they can address those substance abuse issues or other mental issues that are associated with homelessness and lead us to the situation. And expanding the local shelter beds is really important as well. But really coming up with solutions that address the interconnected social issues that lead us to this position, on-island drug rehabilitation, the adolescent treatment center, and more facilities for people, not just adolescents, but real inpatient treatment, and addressing, the affordable housing and the cost of living here, raising the minimum wage, all these. I think it's a really comprehensive approach that's needed. Okay, very much. Thank you very much, Fern Rosenstiel and Nadine Nakamura. Thank you both for coming, and good luck tomorrow. Saturday. It's getting really close. And the traffic problem in Kauai was mentioned tonight, and we're fortunate that students from Chief's Kamakahele Middle School on Kauai have done a great job covering that story for Hiki No. We'll share their report with you now, and when we come back, we will be joined by the Democratic candidates for House District 13 representing East Maui, Molokai, and Lana'i. We'll be back after this report from the students at Chief's Kamakahele Middle School.
On the east side of Kauai, residents are having to deal with a problem that has become all too common: traffic.
Well, I think right now, a little bit of the traffic that we have right now is caused by construction. So we have, in other words, the normal flow that we have has been impeded by the construction, having to close down certain lanes due to construction. So that's problem number one. The second problem is a lot of people rent a car to be on this island because they like to go out and explore.
Traffic increased because our population increased by about 15,000. And also the tourist population increased. So we have, again today, a traffic problem.
The traffic congestion has been very frustrating for the residents. On bad days, it can take up to 5 times longer than usual.
By that small cemetery, by that triangle across the street from Ono Family Restaurant, just to go there. I think it took me 15 minutes one day to get to Long's Jog, and normally that's a 3-minute ride.
The inability to just get home or get to the grocery store, run simple errands, it takes considerably longer.
Well, I can say for Growing Greens Nursery, way up on Kauai Road, the traffic doesn't really affect us up here. But when you get into downtown Kapa'a, everyone down there is affected. I mean, it's a nightmare to get out of the Safeway parking lot. It is something that people don't want to do.
Construction being done by the Department of Transportation may be one of the reasons why we have traffic congestion. But their main intention is to help improve the traffic flow.
What we are planning on doing is widening out some of our highways, adding more facilities for buses, adding more sidewalks, creating more bike lanes, and those type of projects will actually reduce some of the traffic on the highway during the daytime and into the evening as well.
Although a lot of effort is being given by the DOT, if we don't act fast enough to solve the traffic problem, tourists may soon join the frustrated community, and it may become a threat to our economy.
We actually decided to come here because we heard it wasn't quite as bad.
Yep.
So if it got worse in the future, then it would definitely affect our decision.
So if the amount of visitors were to drop for the island of Kauai, it would have an impact on overall jobs, could have an impact on people's businesses. We've actually seen restaurants and some small businesses could close, and that's happened before when we've had a drop in tourism.
Local residents continue to deal with the traffic and finding ways around it, and some are hopeful that it will get better. The question is when that will be. This is Brandon Marcos from Chiefis Kamakahele Middle School for Hiki No.
Welcome back to Insights on PBS Hawaii. Now we'll turn to Maui County, and I'll introduce you to the Democratic candidates for State House seat representing parts of East Maui and all of Lana'i and Molokai. The winner of Saturday's primary will face Green Party candidate Nick Nikahilananda in the general election. Representative Lynn DeCoite was appointed by the governor to fill the remainder of the 2-year term left by the late Mele Carroll in 2015, and is a homestead farmer who owns and operates L&R Farms Enterprises. She's also served on numerous community boards, including the Molokai Planning Commission, the Molokai Homestead Farmers Alliance, the Farm Service Agency, and the Hawaii State Board of Agriculture. Alex Haller is a substitute teacher with the Department of Education at Haiku Elementary. He holds a degree in finance from California Polytechnic State University and worked in accounting department of Maui's Marriott Ocean Club in Ka'anapali. Mr. Haller was also a field associate with the Maui Invasive Species Committee. Before we begin our discussion, let's take a look at the demographic makeup of House District 13.
Residents of Haiku, Hana, Kaupo, Kipahulu, Nahiku, and Paia Maui, along with residents of Molokai and Lana'i, are represented in State House District 13. The district's population is just under 25,000. The median age is 40.2. Declared race, alone or in combination, is 57.7% Caucasian, 35.8% Asian, and 36.7% Hawaiian or other Pacific Islander. The median household income is $55,900. 13.6% of all residents and 10.8% of all families live below the poverty level. Just under 93% are high school graduates, and just over 28% have a bachelor's degree. The median value of an owner-occupied housing unit is $490,700, and the median rent is $1,164.
So let's start off. This is kind of a crazy district. It's multi-island and a lot of different communities. Representative DeCoite, how do you feel, what are the difficulties of representing this, and what do you bring to the table to help you deal with that kind of diversity of a district?
Well, I think the difficulties is, one, is a lot of traveling. You know, it's not as if you can drive to your constituents. You know, the area is made up of such a large landmass that it forces you, while you're working on Oahu, to make the travel to Molokai, Lana'i, and East Maui, not to mention Ko'olawe is also included in there, and Molokini. You know, so it's a huge challenge just to get out there and meet with your constituents. So I find that, you know, a challenge for us as we go forward.
And for yourself personally, what about you makes you able to do that and makes you feel that you can do that successfully?
I think living on Molokai and trying to relate to the rural areas brings it to focus for myself that we're faced with the same challenges of lack of resources, jobs, and having the ability to relate and carry that message back to the capital and explaining to people that live in urban Honolulu that these are the same resources that we need to provide in those areas.
Mr. Haller, I'm curious about what activated you to get into politics, but also, you know, what do you think about the challenges of representing this district?
Thank you. I first became interested in politics about 3 years ago when I was reading the Maui News, and I came across an article that talked about land appraisals, and our county council was trying to kill a deal that the mayor was trying to pass. I looked into the land appraisals, and I quickly realized that it was a financial miscalculation amongst the county council, and I brought that to their attention, and for the most part, I wasn't taken really seriously. So that's what sparked my interest. It was sold to the constituents as a finance issue, is why they were trying to kill it, but in reality, it was a political issue. And so that's what got me interested in politics, and I thought I would run for office and try to make a difference and you know, get to all parts with our district, because it is challenging. It's the largest district within our state. There's a lot of diverse families, and the community is really spread out.
Well, it's interesting to me that you're essentially saying your finance background got you into politics. That's kind of an unusual process.
I guess it would be unusual, but it's definitely appropriate, and it's what's, you know, really driving this campaign, is what's keeping me going. And I hope if I do get elected, it will make a difference within our state to bring a different perspective to any sort of communities I sit on.
Has that been a challenge as a representative now that you've been there to, you know, what's the biggest challenge in going to that legislature and getting them to understand these communities?
I think one is living in the community. You know, being with business background, you know, it's for myself, trying to pinch that penny and trying to leverage and partnership up with other people. So it takes a lot of long hours, a lot of expressing who you are, where you came from, knowing that the short side of a lot of the things and resources that were put on Molokai really was lacking. Whether it be Molokai, Hana, Lana'i, haiku, and paia. You know, it became challenging in those areas because you have, you know, low income, and then you have the high end of a lot of rich people that have moved into those areas that have asked for change, and at the same time wanting that change to be that reflection of the host culture and not losing that sense of purpose. So being able to sit at the legislature allowed me then to have actually extended the invite towards the finance committee and say, come and look at what we do and where we live. So I was allowed the opportunity at the time to invite them out and say, I want you to come to Hana, and I want you to come to Lana'i, and I want you to come. So we took the committee around, visited, and lo and behold, many of them could not believe the trek that was driven to haiku, paia, and Hana, and they were like, I'm not feeling good. I said, welcome to our world. And you know, they clearly understood at that point, you gotta be there in the community to truly understand the lack of attention and resources that is put there by the state.
Mr. Haller, you know, when you talk about that kind of a challenge, the lack of resources, what kind of arguments do you think you could bring to the legislature to open up the pipeline a little bit more?
I thought about this question a lot, and something that can make a small investment that can make a huge impact within our state is if people that are in charge of appropriating billions of our state dollars took a basic intro to finance 101 class to kind of give everyone a base level of kind of some important theories of finance, which weights projects with different returns and making sure that we focus on the most important projects with the lowest risk.
You know, I got a question that kind of fits to your background. We mentioned that you were with the Invasive Species Advisory Committee. I don't know what it's called exactly, but question, can the candidates address the issue of invasive species species, specifically fire ants. What do you think should be done? And you can go a little further than that, speak more broadly about invasive species, how high a priority that is for this district, and answer the fire ant question first and then go a little bit broader.
Absolutely. The threat of the little fire ant spreading in East Maui is one of the biggest threats that our district faces, and also taking over throughout the state. If the little fire ant becomes established on our beaches, our way of life will never be the same. It's absolutely important that we take the necessary steps to make sure that we invest in quarantine and state inspectors, so when cargo ships are coming into our docks that they're thoroughly searched, and if any ants are identified, that they're stopped at our docks. And dogs that are trained to sniff little fire ants are helpful, and also a better quarantine program.
Are we anywhere near the amount of resources that are necessary to do that?
Our county has put in a lot of resources, but I think our state could be putting in more. And if we definitely invest in dogs that are trained to sniff little fire ants, that could be a huge impactful move that could really help mitigate the spread of little fire ants.
What are your own feelings? Do you think that is the biggest invasive species issue for your island or your islands?
Well, right now for Molokai, it's not. For the district of East Maui, it's a huge issue. But again, too, it's all about putting funding in there. And funding was put in by the state to the Department of Land and Natural Resources. But when the Rapid Ohia debt came about, as well as Zika, it then became the priority of our rainforests. It became the priority of people dying from the Zika. So monies then are shifted by the preview of the director. And that then becomes apparent also, even with fire ants, we got to take it upon ourselves as landowners and the onus upon ourselves to say, hey, I can't be just grabbing stuff from one area, taking it to the other. And many of us have done that and said, I know I shouldn't take this plant across to another island, and we do, and yet we at the state level do not have the resources. There's only so much money in the pie to be spread around, and again, it would be, are we looking at cutting other funding elsewhere? And that's what we really got to focus on. But fire ants is a huge issue here, and we really need to stop it at the borders.
It's sort of like you've got to figure out which crisis you can deal with.
Exactly.
A couple of questions that I'll take to you, Representative DeCoite, first, particularly because of your farming background. One question, I'm very interested in the sustainability of our islands. My question is, what will you do to promote local food sustainability? And the second question, I don't know how this is related exactly. I don't know if this is a conflict, but as a farmer and rancher who supports all agriculture, how would you protect all of our choices of raising livestock or produce? And what kind of experience do you have to make a decision like that? Would you give the people a choice and not force anything or any group upon anyone? What are these questioners asking about, essentially, of the issues you're facing?
Well, I think one is, I come from a farming background, a third-generation homestead farmer on the island of Molokai, as well as ranching. And when you talk about sustainability, it's really about standing on your own 2 feet. Most people say, I support agriculture. Well, you got to do agriculture. We've been farming for many, many years, and on my own part, we grow Molokai purple sweet potatoes, which is sold around the entire state of Hawaii. I've done my share in it, and what I've done within the past couple of years also is allowed that our crop also be used for our cattle. And to sustain the cattle beef industry in Hawaii, if we're truly looking at sustaining Hawaii and having those resources available, there's a lot of people that want to talk about it, want to dream about it, but you really got to get down and do it. But you can't go back to the state and say, hey, we want funds to do this. It's a business. It's something that you have to take upon yourself, whether it be to make a loan, to go to the bank, to loan companies, farm service agencies, to really sustain itself. The problem we have is so much rules and regulations. So what I've done this past year was I introduced legislation for food safety, and it was to help put positions in the Department of Ag to make sure that when the Food Safety Modernization Act hits us, which forces us to pay for an audit that costs us about $1,500, was mandated by the federal government, the transition for these farmers and ranchers is going to be drastic. And the problem we have with farming is the cost to do business in Hawaii. So, we've introduced legislation, it has passed for that, as well as cost reimbursement via county subsidies that was given to them many years ago in a loan program. So these are things that can help the farmers stay afloat to meet those federal regulations. And that's the problem I have, is you have federal making rules but not sending down the funding, but forcing the state. So I think I was very successful in making sure that all agriculture would be supported by the state at that level, because it's very costly.
Mr. Haller, what do you think are the big issues in that area of food sustainability and the viability of the agricultural industry? What are your main priorities there?
I'm not a farmer, but I was raised in a landscape upbringing. My father is a landscape contractor on Maui for the last 30 years. So I've spent my fair share of time outside planting trees, coconut trees, palm trees, anything that he would put on a job site. So I definitely believe that having a solid plan, knowing what our needs are and planning for those needs, and investing in programs that ultimately attribute to the success of growing more locally produced food and also bringing healthier food into our school lunches. That's extremely important. Our state serves 100,000 meals for the Department of Education, and taking the steps that would bring more local food to the cafeteria is definitely would be at the top of my list of agriculture priorities.
Let me move on to another question. This is a very rural district with lots of agricultural activities, but there's still a lot of pressure for development, whether it's a resort or a wind farm. What do your constituents want? What do you think the people who live there and are voters want in terms of balancing rural conditions versus development and jobs?
That's going to be a tough balance to find, but it's definitely attainable. Our district is geographically the largest district in the whole state, but there's only one stop signal in the whole state. So it's definitely rural, definitely spread out, and finding affordable housing for our local residents is is definitely one of the most common concerns I've been told during my campaign. So figuring out where it's appropriate to come up with a public-private partnership to help with the infrastructure of affordable housing and getting the important roads and utilities put in there. Hopefully could take the cost down for the developers and ultimately make the homes more affordable for local people.
Do you feel that the state should be the one building these affordable homes in your district, or do you feel like that's something developers should be asked to do as part of developing something more high-end?
I wouldn't say the state should be responsible, but the state could do a lot of things to make it easier. They could acquire land and hopefully put it towards some sort of project, or partner with developers to help out with the infrastructure costs.
Yeah, Representative DeCoite, on that issue of affordability, and also if you want to get into the issue of preservation versus more development. But first off, for affordable housing, what do you think is the best way to bring affordable housing into your district?
I think one is to bring affordable housing, you got to look at infrastructure needs, and is there water availability? As we talk about affordable housing and trying to look at our keiki living in Hawaii, we really got to look at a department, something like Hawaiian Homelands. And I look at them because a lot of the people that are unfortunate to have those homes are of Native Hawaiians, which made it clear to me that DHHL, I introduced a bill this year, HB 1932, to make sure they're adequately funded to address that. While we're looking at affordable housing, because our area is rural, it's agriculture, we have to be like-minded about what we're putting in place next to these farms, because we do not want to impact the dust, whether it be pesticides or so forth. We start to sprawl out in development, and we really have to plan it out. You can't just say, okay, I'll put ag here and then put affordable housing. There's some people that don't want to be around it, as we can see, which is one of the major issues across the state. So that bill will allow them to address that need, as well as the wait list of the Native Hawaiians. And I think once we address that, because DHHO is land rich and cash poor, to have the staffing in place would put that at a high need to address the affordable housing, start issuing land that you could then put affordable housing, is not to buy the land, but uses it as a $1 a year lease.
Okay, let me move on to another question. This was a very contentious issue in the legislature this year, probably the most contentious. What would you do about the water issues on Maui, Lana'i, Molokai regarding the aquifer? I think this is a question that has to do, that's not the surface water issue, is it? That's an aquifer issue. Is that, if I got that right?
Yeah, so I'm guessing that's going to HB 2501 is the surface water issue.
Yeah, because when he talks about the aquifer here, that's the big contentious issue was diversion of surface water. And how do you feel about how that was resolved? And ultimately, do you feel like the right decision was made?
I believe that the state could have done much better finding a better balance for a solution. I was fortunate to be raised on one of those streams that's being diverted. I live 2 properties below an East Maui irrigation diversion. So my whole life I've seen firsthand the difference between 100% stream flow diversion during dry years and 100% stream flow restoration during rainy years. And I truly believe that we can find the right balance to ensure that all the streams on Maui, Lana'i, and Moloka'i run Mauka to Makai, that we invest in the diversions to ensure that, because the system is complex. There's a lot of simple diversions and also a lot of complex diversions. So there are simple solutions to fix the simple diversions, and likewise complex, slightly more complex solutions to solve the other diversions. But I think that what it's going to take is someone to take photos of the diversions and give it to an engineer, and have an engineer find the solution that will restore the stream flow and also divert appropriate water to keep East Maui and Central Maui green.
Your thoughts about that? I think you said you supported the bill that would have basically helped restore the streams.
Well, so basically, HB 2501 was to return the water back to East Maui, and I was totally in favor of that bill based on court order. I believe that we got to do the right thing. When a decision is made by the court, that we should enforce that decision. At the same time, while saying release the water immediately was my stand on that issue. You look at an island like Molokai, whose aquifer is a single source aquifer. Many years ago, we were hit by a development that would have occurred on the western side of Molokai, which is called La'au Point. At that point, our water also was in jeopardy, and it was to use our Molokai irrigation system as a housing facility that is still being used today, that will be changed hopefully within the next few months. But it's knowing when to jump in and say this is right, that we intervene and make sure water is not taken really out of one ahupua'a to the other.
Let me ask, a lot of the way this issue was put forth, it was A and B wins and the East Maui traditional farmers lose. Is that a fair way of characterizing that bill, or is it more complicated than that?
I believe it's more complicated than that, and I believe that DLNR really needs to get their act together. Here you have what's called the holdover permit, and you have revocable permits that are all incorporated on the land part of it, and then you have CWRM that handles the water inflows and so forth. Those measures and that became apparent of what needed to be done. It's trying to put together what's a holdover permit, how does the holdover permit work, and where does the RPs come into play. So DLNR really needs to sit down and set a ruling on how they issue these things, because what I do know from RPs is here you have a lot of farmers.
Revocable permits.
Yeah, revocable permits. You have a lot of farmers that invest a lot of money into their places, and yet they're being held on a month-to-month lease or a year-to-year lease. I really don't think that's fair for some of these people to invest, money into it. And, at that point, DLNR needs to take it upon them as honest as they can to help these guys, and that's one of the challenges in people wanting really to grow business in Hawaii.
Let me ask another very contentious issue on Maui is the hospitals issue, and in particular, the governor vetoed the bill that would have provided the severance for the workers. It got overridden. Now it's hung up in the courts. Representative DeCoite, how do you think you're going to find your way out of this? What do you think is going to be the solution? And are you critical of how the governor has been handling this?
I've always been critical about issues such as that, because here you're looking at the health and well-being of an entire county. My first thing coming out really was, and we got to make sure that we have those services, because really what would happen is if we lose the service, we'll have everybody come to Oahu. And for Molokai, they're a partnership of Queens Hospital. So as we know, for those that live on Molokai, we come down to Queens and we wait for a bed in the emergency room. Imagine 500,000 population in Maui having to come here. So it was apparent to me that really we had to save the hospital.
Okay, I'm running out of time. I want to give Mr. Haller a chance on that question. How would you approach that issue? How should it have been done differently, and how urgent is this to get fixed?
It's extremely important that the employee retirement system, the tax-exempt status isn't put in jeopardy. So that's definitely the most important thing with this transition. But also to ensure that we do protect and fight for our public workers, definitely, our nurses and our hospital staff, because they're the ones that take care of us when we're the sickest. So it's important to not turn our backs on them when we're less fortunate to be in the hospital and they're fighting every single day to keep their patients alive. Okay,
I think we're just about out of time, but Representative DeCoite and Mr. Haller, thank you very much. Good job and good luck on Saturday. And coming up on Insights next on PBS Hawaii, we'll focus on the race for Big Island Mayor. We'll hear from whoever's left standing after this Saturday's primary election. On August 25th, we'll hear from the candidates running for State District 9 in the Senate. That district includes Hawai'i Kai and Hana and has been held for decades by Senator Sam Sloan. Is this the year for an upset? And Insights on PBS Hawaii will bring you more candidates for more races throughout the state in the coming weeks, right up to the general election. Thank you for watching Insights on PBS Hawaii. Ahui ho.